Welcome to the Getting to Know Your Students and Their Why presentation. This is going to be a little bit different. I'm actually going to take you through the slide material, which is linked on the website, and you could download a PDF file and have access to what you're seeing right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the resources that are built within the slideshow and talk about what was implied by each slide that I put together. So essentially, this will be a shorter version of the presentation. And in fact, I won't watch all the video clips that are embedded. If you're going through the presentation on your own, you can go through and watch those. Some are a few minutes long, some are a little bit longer. So here we go. I'm going to go into full slide mode here. And this QR code takes you to my website, which will have access to more resources and also the presentation. So here we go. I like to use this free plugin on Chrome or other browsers. It also is a free app you can download and then remote control your slides. You can see here over on the right side. It's nice, especially when you're working with Google Slides. You can control them with your phone. It can be a Google-based phone or an Apple phone, doesn't matter. This book is amazing. You need to read this. If you don't have time, take a look at this Edutopia article, and it is phenomenal. What it highlights is essentially, some of the things we hear about the teen brain, and we make jokes about it, but the author talks more about how to better engage at the age range between 12 and 24, and knowing the why, helping students with agency. So there's 4 main components you can see in my highlights here on the article, and how to creatively use these resources in our classrooms to engage students. And you can see this is it. That's not very long. Gives you a nice summarization with some resources. I strongly advise you take a look at this. It's huge. I'm going to use this for this year to embed some of this learning into what I'm doing. And all right, let's continue on. I'll go back full screen. And this, Michael Jr. has this really cool presentation about this gentleman that you see is asked to sing. He sings the first time just because he can sing, does a great job with that. But then the host asks him to sing with more purpose, gives him a background of what he's singing about, and he then sings with way more power and agency and drive. It's pretty phenomenal. Just a few minutes long. You should take a look at it. And in the PDF of the slideshow, okay, that didn't load. I have the video clips auto-loading in Google Slides, which you have access to on my website, which I'll show you at the end here again. If you're actually accessing the PDF, the video clips do work. You just have to click on the link to activate them. So our goal is to help students who feel like they don't have agency to get to what drives them, and they need our help to do that. So I like what Eric Belgaw, one of our advisory members, said: know your lane, stay in it, drive fast. Our job is to help students better understand how they take charge of their lives and do things, and we're good at that. So let's go into this. Andragogy is a study of adult learning, and we have young adults, the adult part being emphasized. And adults want to work, just like you're watching this now, problem-centered. What problems you have that you're hoping that this presentation could address? How are you going to be self-directed with the resources that you're seeing here? And is this relevant to what you need? If it answers these 3 questions, you're going to be more excited about it. We need to have this conversation with our students. So anytime I have a problem that I'm trying to solve for the students, I work with the students because they're intelligent. They know a lot, and I will work with them to come up with some ideas. And then ultimately, I'm the one who puts them into play, but they see that they have co-authored that experience. So again, young adults. When I do presentations, the number one thing people want when we do Danielson, I do a little survey oftentimes at presentations, and I ask people to rank of all the Danielson components, because that's what we use Danielson at my school. Of the Danielson components, which ones would you like me to highlight? And so in the survey, it has the number 1 voted one, and so on and so forth. Number 1 is always 3C, engaging students. And so hopefully this presentation really addresses that. This is kind of fun. We're going to take a look at different components to help young learners engage who they are. And so these three components are things you're going to see through the presentation that we want them to better understand how they work. And through this process, hopefully this will make sense. And if you look at these 5 shapes, I do this, I'll write these on the whiteboard, and I'll have students pick their favorite shape. In fact, you could do that right now. Pick your favorite shape, pick your second favorite shape, and pick your third favorite shape. In the order that you select them, according to this, it's kind of fun, you are the first shape you chose is your dominant component. So squares are organization, triangles are leadership, circles are empathy, rectangles are adventure, and squigglies, either drawn out like this or more soft curves, are creativity. So a person would be, if they're a squiggly, circle, and a triangle, they're a creative person who's empathetic and has leadership qualities. Now, according to this, we have all these in us. It's just that some of these may be a little bit more dominant. I use this as a team breaking icebreaker. When my kids get together in teams, I have them identify their shapes and see, does this make sense? So we do this as a class, and then the students write this down. But when they get together in their teams, I have a little half sheet with these shapes on it, and I have them have a discussion of who's going to be the leader, who's going to be organized, who's going to help generate ideas, who's going to help think outside the box, and then who's going to help the team make sure that everybody's doing okay, doing check-ins and so on. And it seems to be a pretty productive way to find out who has what skill sets to do things. In the middle of my presentation right now, my cat keeps jumping on the desk. So I apologize if I seem to be interrupted for a moment. All right, moving on. This is a video. All right, you're at the point where of me explaining what you just saw. When we talk about how our brain functions, the Coy brothers, I call them that, Mike and Maddie, have a survey that students can take about their brains and how they function. And it's a really cool video and a short survey to help kids understand, again, how they may be wired a certain way. It's a great conversation piece, so we're going to skip through that video.
Let's talk about grades.
So you can watch that. This doctor does a great job with explaining how the brain works. He is a gamer and pretty exciting stuff. But motivational styles are really interesting. And so in here, you're going to see him explain that.
Let's talk a little bit about motivation. Okay.
And through the video, he covers the 3 different types, and you can see them on screen right now. I've embedded the link jump to what you see here on this slide.
And so what we're going to do is turn to something called Ayurveda.
Okay, and then this one.
Okay. So let's start with the dynamic form of motivation, or the Vata.
Okay, and then he has the second type.
Okay, so the second type is the Pitta, or the driven motivational.
Okay, and then the third type.
That brings us to our third motivational style, which is Kappas.
He then explains the strengths of each one of these motivational types and also the drawbacks. And I have the kids go through and we talk about this, and then we talk about strategies. And does this seem to work? Does it seem accurate or not? Most students say it really helps them understand more their learning style or their approach to their motivation, in this case, not the learning part, but the motivational component. And then we talk about strategies, and it's very productive. Jim Quick is a memory expert, and he has a survey as well. And I'll go back to this. If you go to his website, if you click on this link, he kind of explains what the survey is. But the survey has, again, other types of how your brain functions with learning. It overlaps a little bit with the previous one, but again, helps reveal more information and good conversation with the kids. It only takes a few minutes. And then I have students go through Myers-Briggs. We use this particular link. There's a bunch of them out there, but you'll see here that I want them, when they're done, take a look at, based on Myers-Briggs, what are some career choices that it would recommend, and who are people that are similar to that? You probably have done something like this. There are a number of websites that do similar things. I have them go through, write down what they are, but also explore career options for people with that and see if that resonates. Again, Most students find it helps. Some students feel like it's not as accurate, but again, we talk about it just to get tendencies to find out what drives them. Obviously, you've seen this. So we go in here, and now with that information, we will take a look at what are things out there that they may be interested in and what's it take to be prepared for those particular pathways for careers. And this kind of breaks some of that down a little bit, talking about how to build a career. It's like a circle going in a circle is just never really going anywhere. That would be like an endless job. A career is a spiral. Every time you go around, you build skills upon each other and you go somewhere. And so we talk about how to build skill sets that go in a direction or, a pathway. Then I have done card making in the class where kids write down all this information you just saw onto a card template website and then download a version of it. We've done Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, Pokemon. I've done this over the years, and it's a lot of fun. It's a bunch of work because the kids give me their cards. I put them on a single page. I print them out. I cut them up, give them a copy. I keep a copy for open house. So if parents are coming in or guardians, they could get a copy as well. I take pictures of the kids the first day of class, and then I make those available to them so they can download and then put it into the card template. It's a lot of fun. What I'm doing more recently, because I haven't done the card thing in about 3 years, I'm using this. What you're seeing on screen is essentially, I print this out on a piece of paper, but I put their picture on the other side. So what I'll do is I'll print out these, put them in the copier, the right direction, and then I print out all the pictures of the kids. So on the front side of a full sheet of paper will be their picture in black and white. And on the back side, they have this. And so what students do is they're filling out this information. We start around the edges on the left side, and we move down, and then we go around the bottom, and then we go up the right side. And the idea is on the right side, for instance, you have on the bottom right corner, what do I need to know to best support them in class? Then above that, we have Myers-Briggs, then we have brain type, and then the 3 favorite shapes, I know it's kind of cut off in the video, are the very, very top. And so this works really well, especially when we go down the middle. They're why, like what drives them? What do they think their life's purpose is at this point in time? And that's something super flexible, but what drives them? And somebody once said, don't ask kids what they want to do when they grow up from a career standpoint, because that's kind of too nebulous. Ask them, what problems do they want to solve? I really love that. Like what drives them? And I think that's a more productive conversation to have. And then in the middle of the document, we talk about Getting Things Done by David Allen. I can see I'm missing an end bracket on that. And just how do they organize their day-to-day stuff to do complex tasks? School is busy work. School is amazing, but it has a lot of stuff they have to get done is what I mean. And how do they track that? Because as you know, life is hard. It's overwhelming. There's a lot coming at us. And we can't do the big things unless we break them down into little things. And David Allen's process is essentially take big things, break them into small things, and then do one thing at a time. Break them down so small that each task is 2 to 5 minutes. That's roughly the range that I've kind of gleaned from his process. So if you have a big paper due in a couple weeks, break it down into 2 to 5 minute chunks. And so, create the document, save the file, just things like that. Because if they were just sit down in a matter of minutes and make a plan, then start at step 1, you start to get what James Clear says in Atomic Habits is you want to build a momentum. And you can even stack habits together so that when you're doing one thing, you then just start doing the next thing and so on. And all that comes from the GTD, Getting Things Done process. And the last thing in the middle here is support system. Who do they lean on when they're stuck, having a hard time, etc.? This whole document, by the way, I tell them, only share what they're comfortable sharing. They don't have to overshare. I just want them to know that the document is only for me. It's helping me better understand who they are. I explain to them that research shows that the more the student has a teacher, the more the teacher understands the student and their motivations and what they need and where they came from, the better the student does in class. And so this information helps me kind of connect with them. For instance, on the left side, the hobbies, skills you bring to class, tension in your life. These are things that we can tie together in projects. So especially for hobbies, I can like tie into things that they like to do. And then the bottom left corner, the tensions of their life, I say this can be super simple. You don't have to overshare, but the idea is like, what's frustrating? I teach storytelling. I teach game design, I teach film, I teach music. And so everything is about storytelling and tension. And so it could be big things or little things, but we need to identify those things. But that's where we can work on solving some of those problems related to those tensions with the skills that we're building in class. All right, project tracking sheet. Let's go over here and click on this. This is something I use to manage what students are working on. And it basically, what you're seeing on screen is all the things that are due during a session. A session is a project development cycle. And so we go through the development cycle over a number of weeks. It can be as short as 3 weeks. It can be as long as 2 months. But I will put the dates at the very top. The black bars down the middle of each section demark when things are due. So kids can see this from the beginning, and we track it all the way along. One of my favorite things is that I turn things yellow that are currently due. So if we're starting off and you have to have your film pitch, I'll have this projected up on the front screen, and this will all be yellow. Then as class is going on, you'll see kids logging in here and clicking on stuff. So this document is shared with everybody in class. Everybody has editing rights, and I tell them be nice because we can track, who's doing what. But it works really well, and kids will then link things. And if I see on the far left side, what you don't see off the edge of the screen is I have their names listed out, first names only, and then I'll also have their email address, because kids can then connect with each other when we're working on team projects. So they can share files. They have their email link. We do Gmail in our school, and they can then click and share things when we're working on collaborative work, which is really helpful. You can see that we put in different elements from the Myers-Briggs, the brain type, and so on and so forth. I put those in here so that we can have a better idea who we are. The students do this. They click on this, and it's just drop downs, and then they can do that. So, yeah. All right. Let's see. I got to get back to, I'm going to hit escape out of here. No, I'll go over here. There we go. The Lightner system. So part of the picture thing, having taken the pictures of the students and then having them fill out the information on the back, we usually start school the middle of the first week. So it's on a Wednesday. So day one, take pictures. I have kids line up around the room by last name alphabetically, and I just watch them to see who may be natural leaders in the class or can help people get organized. We organize around the edge of the room, and then I take the pictures, and then we start our process. Then the next day, I have the pictures printed out with what you saw on the back, and we start filling the information in. We start watching the videos, doing the surveys, and so on. By Friday, we're done with all that. I take them home and memorize using the Lightner system. And here's how this works. I take a picture, I look at the person, and I don't know who they are. So I flip it over, I see their name, read some information about them. I then put it into one of these boxes. Now, if I don't get it, I put it down right away into, you can see here, box 1. And that's pretty much most of the students, but I may have some returning students. So if I get it, the name right away, then I'll put it into box 2. If I continue this process, so what I do is Friday after school, I will go through until I get all the names successfully for all the students. And the way short-term memory works is that get a good night's sleep. Short-term memory is converted into long-term memory overnight. I then do this again Saturday morning, Saturday at noon, Saturday evening, again, doing the Lightner system. I go until I have all the names. If I look at the face, I can call the name off. I just do this. It takes me probably 10, 15 minutes each time I sit down. And then I do it again Sunday morning, Sunday at noon, Sunday night. I get a good night's sleep again. And then Monday morning, I quiz myself to make sure I have them all down. And then in front of class, I have all their pictures up on screen with no names, just little thumbnails. And then I just go down the list and say their names in front of them and welcome them to the class. And I explain the Lightner system and how the brain works and how in the world of AI, I like to call it AI the power of 3. We need authentic intelligence, which is memorization, using the brain in effective ways, meaning get a good night's sleep, learn how to take short-term memory, convert it to long-term, learn how the brain functions because it's our superpower, and then work with artificial intelligence to help us with that. Don't use AI for answers, use it for options. So there's tools that you can use with AI to help your authentic intelligence. And then the last part of the AI to the power of 3 is amplified intelligence. So if we do it in that way, learn things, memorize stuff, read books, do things to enhance your understanding of the world, be in school, and then use AI to get options or to help you with that process. And that is how we get amplified intelligence. Okay, so I just kind of was talking about using AI as an agency engine in that order with AI to the power of 3. And you can, in this process, when you're working with AI, you can say, hey, I'm this type of person. How could you create resources for me to then learn the material? Don't give me the answer. With this, challenge me so that I can be more in charge of what I'm doing. I use Notebook LM for a lot of stuff, and this presentation, the core of it was built with Notebook LM. I took my resources, put it in there and said, make a slideshow with a black background, white font, etc. And then I had to clean it up a lot. And yeah, it also can make podcasts. So check this out.
What if the reason you can't pay attention in mandatory corporate training has absolutely nothing to do with your attention span?
Right.
And, everything to do with the fact that your instructor is just, treating you like a child. I want you to really think about that for a second.
So what you just saw, heard, is the information that you're seeing in this presentation. I had it make a podcast, and it talks about these resources that I'm using and how to structure a classroom experience. And it's about a 15-minute podcast. So if you haven't used Notebook LM, it can create slideshows, podcasts with resources you upload. It is really good at not hallucinating because it's basically limited to the resources you upload. And Google has now rebranded it as part of Gemini. And so Gemini Notebook, and it's a pretty powerful tool. So if you're just starting off with AI or you're worried about different things, it's one of my favorite tools to use to take resources. I think up to 50 you can upload. It could be YouTube videos. You put a link in there, PDF files. It can handle audio files. And then you can ask questions or have it look for material or patterns in the stuff that you've uploaded. And it stays restricted to that. For instance, if you ask it how to bake chocolate chip cookies and you've uploaded a number of learning resources, it will say, I have no idea. These resources don't talk about baking cookies. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's pretty neat. So what you're seeing here is kind of a simplification of coming full circle of all this, is that we help students find purpose, knowing their why, knowing who they are, how their brain works, their personality, styles, types, etc., getting to know that so that they can then have the agency to drive their learning and get some of the hurdles out of the way that maybe have been hard on them, like people saying they're dumb, they don't know how to learn, or they're frustrated about certain things. We're helping them create agency because they have more self-knowledge about their own process. And then the data input at the top here is essentially take your learning process for a run. Take it for a test drive. As Scott Young says in his book, or states in his book, Ultra Learning, what you should be doing in life is challenging yourself to see how you learn, try a process. If it works, great. If it doesn't, modify it and keep doing that. Scott Young is famous for doing what he called the MIT challenge, where he taught himself a computer science degree from the free resources from MIT in 1 year. So it's a 4-year computer science degree in 1 year with the free resources. He did have to buy a few books and things, but generally speaking, that's what he did, and he was successful at it. He wrote a book called Ultra Learning. He also spent a year with a friend traveling to 4 different countries, learning the languages of those countries, and within 3 months, their goal was to pass, I think it was the second highest verbal test in the country. So they started off in either Portugal or Spain. They went to France, China, and Korea. So again, they would embed in the country for 3 months and learn the languages as quickly as they could. And they tried different strategies. A lot of the strategies that we would typically think work were not working fast enough or efficient enough. So they would jettison that and try something else. So his theory behind ultra learning is that each person has to figure out their own process for learning things. Try something. Is it working? Is it effective? If not, try something else. So this is essentially the core of what we want to do for our students. And the power of AI is that it can be a tutor or an option generating engine to help with strategies to learn the material. Again, that authentic intelligence that we're trying to help students develop on their own with their own initiative in our classes is a really cool process. So that's it. So you made it through the slideshow. I'm going to come over here and close out this. And let's see. This is my website. When you go to scottleduc.org, if you click on the presentations page, it will take you to my presentations. This is the one with the resources. This is that podcast you were hearing earlier. Here's the slideshow you just saw from Google. And I have other resources in here I did not mention here. It's a lot of stuff, sometimes too much. And so I wanted to make sure you knew where that is. And lastly, this is the description for summer conference. And you can see information is here. The title may have changed because it was canceled because I was not there in person, but you do have this video. So, all right, that is it. I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions and have a good year.